No, nothing to be worried about, just us.
All right. Hi, my name is Mikael COF, and I'm here to talk about mercenary armies. The main issue I want to talk about is that currently that the U.S. military, and government as well, is facing a huge problem with them, with the fact that mercenary armies and groups, and aka contractors, have become more common practice in terms of military activity. Now, and what I mean by that is I'm talking about accountability, regulation, the activity is that these groups have been doing in certain countries, as well as a reduction in our current forces relatable to this group, and potential growth in this and in the future of military actions in terms of different groups and nations. My first claim is that the U.S. cannot fully regulate mercenary groups or hold them accountable. And this seems to be backed up by the International Institute for Strategic Studies, saying that there is no real way to strongly regulate these groups. One reason is because that the industry, if there's hard regulation on this industry, they just tend to move away from where they're based at and go to another location, usually another state, or what I mean by state is a nation, to a different country entirely. And when they do take part in a military action, that while they're technically contracted by a government, they are not considered part of the force. They have a special title called special constables, making it difficult to apply legislation towards them since they're acting as agents of the state. Meaning that while they are acting on behalf of a military group, they themselves are not part of that. Meaning that we cannot hold them to any action, no matter how gruesome or great it can be. Also, the label to that is the Geneva Convention. Usually, the Geneva Convention holds certain states accountable for this. However, since they're not part of a state, they are not held by the Geneva Convention, which goes on in the Institute for Strategic Studies goes on by saying that they take advantage of this, of the legislation aims towards them, such as the one report from the Atlantic actually reported that a contracting group called Blackwater contractors actually ended up killing some civilians at that in Travis Circle during 2007 war in Iraq. And there have been multiple instances since then, to where the group can actually just change their name with no repercussions. And there's still no regulations for them still today. Our second claim is that military force is facing a reduction and declining since the end of the Cold War. Again, reported from the Institute for Strategic Studies. Now, what I mean by that is that near the end of the Cold War, these groups have actually began to explode in usage from private companies, and as well as certain agencies, such as our very own CIA has used them constantly in order to get past regulations, to get more information, and so on. Also, and going on with this reduction is that the U.S. Armed Forces has employed 1/3 fewer personnel since that time, during the Cold War era. One example is that during the 80s, we were in 2000 in some enlistment level. Now, it's half of that. It's in the thousands, and continue to drop. Now, why is that? Well, now this might be more relatable to the fact that demobilization. Whether that is good or bad, we have no clear idea of quite yet. And this is provided by, and militarymo.com has given some intel that because there's such a low job market for these people, they have been recruited for mercenary armies. So some mercenary armies and groups and agencies are now recruiting them. And this is working because in the end of it, they're actually hired, but and due to the fact that they earn more money than our current military forces, and so on. Now, my last point is that the alarming rate at which mercenary armies are growing. Now, and these groups are motivated by profits and by motivated by the show focus. and can easily change location at any time. Now, the actual number of this, of how many people are in the group, cannot be recorded because the U.S. government cannot have proper data of prior groups. And just, yeah. And the reason why it's because, again, it's a private company, they have to be able this information, even though they are participating in military action. Now, with the increase, and related to the alarming rate which they're growing is that they have increasingly large global market. Anyone can hire them, from governments to rebels to two countries to two opposing forces in a civil war can hire at the same time, actually. Now, now they still fare to U.S. repercussions in terms of international law. The UN has nothing to offer us with protection. And the remaining question is that, what is the future of military contact? Are mercenary armies the future that we can rely on now? And is there going to be any regulations to hold them accountable? Those are the main questions that I'll leave you with. Thank you very much.
Okay, well, you start with the proposition, but the phrasing on it's a little complicated, and you rush through it. You got to pace yourself a little bit because I think you've got a more complicated statement here. We know generally that there is an issue with the use of mercenary armies. As I'm listening to the speech, it has less and less to do with the U.S.'s use of military mercenaries, and it sounds like it's going to shift in the last section to the use of mercenary forces in a variety of other contexts. So, like I said, I think your main point has to be more clearly stated so I can tell whether or not those supporting points that you do present fit into that particular context. I also think that you rush through the preview. There's an accountability issue. There's something about activity. I think that it's delivery in this particular case that creates the problem. I can see that there's a structure here that's implied before you begin, but I think maybe the anxiety is rushing you a little bit through it and you're swallowing some of your words. I could not make out those things in the first part of the speech. Now, it got a little bit better during the rest of the presentation and being able to follow what you're saying, but I do think that there's a problem, for example, with the organizational structure. After we get past that preview, I don't really hear any organizational structure. It just seems to I can pick out some ideas that are distinctive, but there's not a structure that makes it easy for the audience to listen to and follow. If they're following every piece of information or every claim that you're making, you'll be lucky. Audiences, I'm sorry, are notoriously lazy, and you have to help them out a little bit. You got to give them some direction. Listening is hard. People think that they understand and they know things, and they don't. And they have to work really hard at it, and as a speaker, you have to help them a little bit more than that. I heard a lot of claims being made about mercenary armies, but what I didn't hear was a lot of information about the stuff that you were talking about. For example, you said that there's no control, they don't have any rights, they're private, and I'm going, well, I'm sorry. Private companies get hired by the U.S. government all the time for a variety of things, and they've got so many frickin' rules on every contract that they give out that it's hard to believe that anybody ever gets or accepts a contract. So why is it that they don't have these kinds of restrictions on the supplemental groups that they're hiring? I don't know. I don't have any information about that. There's no context on this. And I don't really have much evidence that says that what you've just said is true. I've got your conclusion with it. There's information about the widespread use of these forces, but there's not much information about what the rules and regulations are in this context. And I think that that's problematic. You make references to a couple of groups, the Institute for Geopolitical Studies at one point. That comes up 2 or 3 times. So I do know that you're giving me some source citations, but it sounds to me like paraphrases at best rather than direct quotes. And then there are other places where I'm not sure if it's an example and where that example came from. For example, the Blackwater case that you mentioned where they killed civilians in 2007. Well, that's pretty specific. Tell us about that case. Tell us what the resolution was, and tell us where you found that information. We don't get anything, and not to put too fine a point on it, that is 10 years ago, so something a little bit more contemporary probably would be a good idea. Sometimes your voice drops out during the presentation, so you want to be careful about that also. All right, we need to move on, sorry.